Okay, so this is a letter I put together for anyone who's had any issues with, well, let's call them child protection, that's what they like to call them. I actually call them child harvesting, where they've made demands on families or parents, where there's been no actual proof of any violence, but or any harm, but one member of the family has made an allegation against another, and we know how that works under legislation, that you don't need to prove it. They're just looking for someone who's going to tear the family apart, and then they'll come in there and they'll take over from there. So if you have any kind of incidents that are like that, where there's been just things made up but there's no proof, this letter can serve you. It's pretty detailed. I think it's about 6 pages. So as you can see, I'm not going to go through the actual part where we talk about, the filling in bits where the red parts are. That's pretty self-explanatory, especially if you watch the other instructions I've done. But as you can see here, the first 3 points, they actually come out of the graphic that I made to do with how slavery happens from a particular superstition, and that's the belief in an external authority. So that gets covered first up. So the first thing you hit them in the face with is those 3 points they can't actually refute. It's not possible. Like down here it says, when legislation aligns with objective morality, it becomes redundant, as morality itself already dictates the right course of actions, right? So no one can actually argue with that. But what I want to do is I want to scroll down. I want to show you where some of the red highlight editable parts are, just to explain what they mean. So just before I read this part, I'll just read this paragraph above. The following passages are a comprehensive explanation of why blindly following legislation lacks virtue. Merely complying without engaging one's moral faculties always leads to catastrophic outcomes. While the people believe you are a legitimate public servant, because they're actually not, but the people believe they are, that is the standard to which you are accountable. A public servant's duty is to maintain societal stability by impartially distributing services to the people. Without impartiality, chaos and ruin become inevitable. Now, they don't do anything that's impartial. This is all dictation, right? So here, you are speaking to a particular individual, and they've done a bunch of stuff, right, that's been violating to your individual rights, and it's been a source of harm to your family and your children. And so you are speaking to them in this case. So it says, in your specific circumstance, you put their name, and then you describe the specific criminal actions that they have actually undertaken, right? So you'll have your own unique experience, right? And if they've worked with any other agencies like police or courts, anything like that, right? To violate your rights. So you write that in there. So then it says your actions serve as undeniable evidence of the premeditated intent to violate my or the people. Now, if you're writing this as someone who suffered this, you put the my. If you're writing this as a support letter for anyone you know, then you put the people, right? So you're going third person. That's why I've given you those 2 options, because you can treat it in 2 ways. Same thing, child or children, depends how many you have, where that's been the issue. And so you can go on. It says here you have the choice to include further detail about the level of misery and suffering you have endured as a result of whoever you're writing to, their actions. Okay, so you can insert another paragraph there. And so here it says the alarming statistics surrounding, you can choose either fatherless or motherless, depending which one you are. And then it goes through what the actual stats are. Whoops, that just got smaller. That wasn't meant to happen. So then we're just going to go a little further down. Here it says the unconscionable situation has arisen due to your willful enforcement of pre-crime legislation, a concept that grants authority to punish individuals for crimes they have not yet committed. That's all legislation is. It's all pre-crime. Very few people know that. This legislation treats mere opinions as indisputable truths, completely disregarding the need for evidence or thorough investigation. Precrime bestows upon the accuser immunity from criminal prosecution for making false statements, elevating them above the law and allowing them to act with impunity. So that's what I said a moment ago. They'll always favour the parent who's more likely to have paranoia or some kind of delusions. And it doesn't matter if it's a male or female, the system always favours them because they act as agent for the state to tear the family apart. Because the way they run it is they need you to actually do the action. So they just need to cultivate the soil to make sure that it's going to bring that part out of you where you feel safe to do it. So if you're already suffering, not you if you're listening to this, but the one who falls for this is already suffering some kind of distress and trauma from childhood, they're the most likely they're going to act this stuff out. Alright, so further down, here we go, there's another good one to put in. Well, it's already there, but just so you see the power of this. So whoever you're writing to, would you be willing to stand in a court of law under penalty of perjury and affirm your acceptance of punishment based on an unsubstantiated complaint that lacks evidence or investigation? Because that's what they do. Would you go on the record to state that it is fair and just for the accuser to be granted immunity from prosecution for making false statements? That's the whole system. It's set up to protect the one who's going to do the thing that's going to violate the family. So a little bit more, as you can see down here, is me, or so this is for first person or third person. That's what that is. So you choose if it's you include the me, and you take out the innocent people. Same with them. So you can see the left-hand side is for if it's you writing for yourself. Right-hand side is if it's for you writing for someone else, like a third person. Okay, so that's what that aspect is. Same down here. All the same, right? Me, people, A, as, sovereign citizen, sovereign citizens. So that's kind of, just a quick look at it. I'll make it available, obviously, in the group. And so you can dispense at your will. It's 6 pages, guys. It's quite detailed. And it has, as you can see, it's referenced with proof, right, of where the information's come from. So there's another bit of ammo in your toolkit if you've ever been violated by child harvesting and you're looking to send something off that proves that they are criminal when the time comes for them to stand trial.